My name is Faye J. Blake. I'm 28 years old. Liam was 27. We had been together for almost 3 years, living together for 1. Long enough that a line like that should never have arrived without consequence. Long enough that I should not have still been surprised by how easily his mother's opinions could slip into our relationship and sit there like a third person with permanent rights. I waited. Maybe he would hear himself and realize how brutal it was. Maybe he would look up, see my face, and backtrack. Maybe he would say he was frustrated and speaking carelessly. Maybe he would reach for me, apologize, choose me. He didn't. Instead, he looked down at his phone and said, I don't want to fight. I'm just being honest. My mom thinks I could do better. There it was. Not a new wound. Just an old one finally spoken out loud. His mother had always hovered in the background of our relationship like a performance review that never ended, asking about my job, my plans, my income, my timeline. Every question dressed up as concern, every concern shaped like disappointment. At first, Liam defended me. Then he repeated her questions. Then he stopped defending anything at all. I looked at him and felt something settle inside me. Not anger, not sadness. Clarity. You're right, I said. That made him look up. He blinked, almost surprised. I am? Yeah, I said. You don't have an answer, and that tells me everything. His mouth opened slightly like he expected more. An argument. Tears. Me listing reasons he should stay. Me pleading my case like I was in a competition neither of us had admitted I'd been placed in. Instead, I stood up. He frowned. What are you doing? Agreeing with you, I said calmly. He gave a short, sharp laugh. Don't be dramatic. I didn't answer. That night, I slept on the edge of the bed, staring at the ceiling while he breathed beside me like nothing had changed. But something had. I could feel it. In the room. In my chest. In the quiet after a truth finally stops pretending it is anything else. The next morning, he left for work with a distracted kiss on my cheek and a reminder to take the trash out. That almost made me laugh. I waited until the front door closed. Then I stood in the silence for a few seconds before walking to the closet and pulling out my bags. I packed quietly, not because I was sneaking, but because I didn't need the drama. I folded my clothes the way I always do. Careful, methodical. Funny how you only notice your routines when you're about to leave them behind. The dresser was still half full of things I had bought him. A scarf from a weekend trip. Shoes he said he needed for work. A jacket he loved because I remembered his size without asking. I left all of it. None of it mattered anymore. What did matter was how calm I felt. No shaking hands, no racing thoughts, just a steady understanding that the relationship had already ended. I was simply catching up to it. When I zipped my last bag, I walked through the apartment one more time. The framed photo from his cousin's wedding. The plant I kept alive while he kept forgetting to water it. The sticky note on the fridge reminding me to buy groceries. Proof of a life that looked mutual from far away. Proof of how much labor disappears when a woman does it quietly enough. I grabbed a pen. The note wasn't planned. It just came out. Now you and your mom can figure out together why you're single. I placed it neatly on the kitchen counter. Not hidden, not dramatic, impossible to miss. Then I left. I didn't block him. I didn't leave town. I went to my sister's place across the city and ended up on her couch with 2 bags and a strange kind of peace I hadn't felt in months. She didn't ask too many questions. She handed me a bottle of water, looked at my bags, and said, "About time." By noon, my phone started buzzing. First call, missed. Second call, missed. Then the text came. "Where are you? Are you seriously doing this?" This is so immature, Faye. Immature. That was Liam's favorite word whenever I stopped swallowing something quietly. I didn't answer. At 1:43 p.m., another message came through. "My mom says you're overreacting." I stared at the screen and laughed out loud for the first time in weeks, because somehow, even now, he was outsourcing his thinking. Even now, he needed her voice standing beside his to explain my reaction back to him. That alone told me I had made the right choice. He got home earlier than usual. I know because my phone lit up with 5 missed calls in less than 10 minutes. Then a text that dropped the mask completely. "Did you seriously move out?" I still didn't reply. A minute later, "Faye, this isn't funny. Call me." Then, "My mom says you're being manipulative." That one almost got a response. Almost. Instead, I sat on my sister's couch staring at the wall, realizing how predictable it all still was. Even after I left, his first instinct wasn't reflection. It was consultation. Like his mother was legal counsel and I was a dispute to be managed. Around 7 that evening, he finally left a voicemail. I listened to it once. That was enough. His voice was sharp at first, accusatory. You don't get to just walk out because of one comment, he snapped. Normal couples talk through things. Then the tone shifted. Softer. More controlled. I was just venting. Everybody complains to their mom. You're acting like I cheated on you. And then, right at the end, the line that told me everything. I didn't think you'd actually leave. There it was. Not I'm sorry. Not I hurt you. Just surprised that I had stepped out of the role I had been quietly playing for years. The role where I absorbed criticism. The role where I proved my worth on demand. The role where I competed with his mother's opinion like she was a permanent third party in our relationship, and I was always slightly behind. I didn't call back. Later that night, a mutual friend texted me. Liam's freaking out. He says you blindsided him. Blindsided. As if a sentence like, I don't know why I'm still with you, was something any woman with self-respect was supposed to shrug off. As if dignity should have stayed negotiable just because the insult arrived calmly. I typed one response and sent it. I didn't leave because of his mom. I left because Liam agreed with her. The friend never replied, but I didn't need them to. For the first time in a long time, I wasn't waiting for anyone's permission to be done. By the next morning, the narrative had already started shifting. Not between Liam and me. He had not earned that, but everywhere else. Mutual friends, old acquaintances, the loose social web that forms when two people share enough dinners, birthdays, and holidays that their breakup starts leaking into other people's phones. One friend messaged me saying Liam was telling people I stormed out over a misunderstanding. Another said he framed it like I had some kind of emotional breakdown. Apparently, his mother was deeply concerned about my emotional stability. That part did not surprise me. Liam had always been good at controlling the framing. Anytime I pushed back, he softened the story before it reached anyone else. He never lied outright. He curated. He made my pain sound excessive and his cruelty sound misunderstood. He turned context into decoration and consequence into overreaction. Around noon, he texted again. I told my mom you took it the wrong way. She thinks we should talk like adults. There it was again. We, as if his mother was part of the relationship and somehow also the judge. I replied for the first time since leaving. This isn't a group discussion. The 3 dots appeared immediately. You're being dramatic. You know my mom just worries. I stared at that and felt tired in a way I had not allowed myself to feel while I was still with him. I had spent years translating his mother's contempt into concern because he needed me to. Worried when I did not make enough. Worried when I did not advance fast enough. Worried when I did not fit the image she had already decided her son deserved. And Liam had stopped questioning that worry a long time ago. An hour later, he called. I answered. Not because I missed him, because I wanted to hear how he sounded now that I was no longer in the apartment, no longer across from him on the couch, absorbing everything quietly, so he could still feel reasonable. He did not greet me. He exhaled sharply and said, So what, you're just done? 3 years and you leave a note? You said you didn't know why you were with me, I replied. I helped you answer that. His voice sharpened instantly. That's not what I meant. What did you mean, I asked. Silence, then irritation. I meant I'm under pressure, from my mom, from everyone. You didn't even try to reassure me. There it was again. Reassure him, convince him, calm him down, prove my value one more time like I was still auditioning for a role I had already been performing without pay for years. I'm tired of auditioning, I said calmly. He scoffed. So now I'm the villain. No, I said. You're just not my responsibility anymore. He hung up. And for the first time, I realized something unsettling, but freeing. Without me there to steady things, he did not actually know how to stand on his own. The silence after that call did not last. It never does with someone who is used to being consulted. 2 days later, he showed up at my sister's place. I had not told him where I was staying, which meant he had asked around. Probably framed it as concern. Probably made himself sound heartbroken enough that people forgot to ask whether he had earned the right to my location. I opened the door and instantly wished I had looked through the peephole first. He stood there, put together in that forced way people get when they are trying to look composed while unraveling underneath. Hair done, shirt pressed, jaw tight. He looked less like a man trying to win back the woman he loved, and more like someone heading into a meeting he still thought he could control. So, he said, glancing past me into the hallway, this is where you ran off to. I blocked the doorway. You shouldn't be here. He rolled his eyes. Relax, I just want to talk. My mom thinks this whole thing got blown out of proportion. I laughed once before I could stop myself. Not because it was funny, because it was so perfectly predictable. Your mom doesn't get to vote, I said. That hit a nerve immediately. His face hardened. You're being disrespectful. To who? I asked. You or her? He crossed his arms. Defensive now. Familiar now. You always do this. You turn everything into some big moral stand instead of just fixing things. I looked at him and said, fixing things how? By convincing you I'm worth staying with? He scoffed too quickly. See? That attitude. That's exactly what my mom was talking about. There it was again. The echo. The referral. The way every road still led back to her. I took a slow breath and kept my voice even. Liam, you didn't just repeat her words. You believed them. He hesitated, only for a second, but it was there. I was confused, he said. No, I replied. You were honest. His voice rose. So that's it? You just leave? No discussion? No chance for me to explain? I looked at him and thought about all the years I had already given him. All the little times I made myself smaller so things would stay calm. The evenings I softened my own hurt because his mother had meant well. The arguments I ended by apologizing because peace costs less in the moment than truth. I gave you 3 years, I said. This wasn't sudden. It was overdue. He stared at me like he was seeing a stranger. Then he snapped, You think you're better than me now? No, I said. I think I finally stopped shrinking. That was the moment something changed in his face. Until then, some part of him still believed this was a stunt, a punishment, a temporary rebellion that would settle once he said the right thing or wore me down enough. But when I said that, he saw it, really saw it. I was not flinching. I was not softening. I was not secretly hoping he would save us from what he had broken. For the first time since he arrived, he looked scared. He did not leave right away. He just stood there like he was waiting for someone else to tell him what came next. When my sister shifted behind me in the kitchen, Liam seemed to remember he was not in control here. Fine, he said, chin lifting. If you want space, take it. But don't act like I didn't try. I almost smiled. Trying, I said, would have sounded different. He turned to go, then stopped at the end of the hallway. You know, he said without looking back, my mom thinks you'll regret this. That one was almost too easy. I already don't, I said. He froze for a beat, then walked away without another word. That night, my phone lit up again. Not from him, from his mother. I had never given his mother my number directly, which meant Liam had. Of course he had. The message was long, carefully worded, full of concern polished into something sharper. Faye, I don't think you fully understand how much pressure Liam is under. He's at an age where choices matter. He needs stability, reassurance, and a partner who understands her place in his future. Her place. I read that line twice. Then I set my phone down on the coffee table and stared at nothing for a while, because that was the first time I saw the full picture without any softness left around it. This was not just a meddling mother. This was a hierarchy, a system. Liam had not simply failed to defend me. He had been raised inside a structure where his mother evaluated, approved, criticized, and remained centered. And somewhere along the way, he stopped imagining love any other way. The next morning, he texted me. My mom didn't mean it like that. I replied with one sentence. She meant it exactly how you meant it. No response. Later that day, one of our mutual friends reached out and told me Liam had taken time off work, that he was not doing great, that he kept saying he didn't recognize me anymore. That part was true. I didn't recognize myself either. I recognized someone quieter, straighter somehow. Someone who was no longer bracing for the next comment, the next comparison, the next subtle little implication that I was almost enough if I just tried harder. Someone who had finally stopped explaining herself. Apparently, that scared him more than losing me ever had. For a few days, Liam didn't contact me directly. Instead, he activated the backup system. Mutual friends started reaching out under the disguise of concern. One asked if I was okay. Another wondered whether I might be open to talking things through. The phrasing was always cautious, as if they had been briefed beforehand, as if they were trying not to sound like messengers while very obviously carrying a message. One of them slipped up. He's really struggling, she said. His mom thinks you blindsided him, but Liam keeps saying he didn't mean it the way it came out. I thanked her and ended the call, because here is the truth people keep trying to soften. When someone says they didn't mean it like that, what they usually mean is they didn't expect consequences. That night, Liam finally texted me himself. I feel like everyone thinks I'm the bad guy. I stared at the screen for a long time. A month earlier, that sentence would have hooked something soft in me. I would have wanted to clarify, soothe, make the shame smaller so we could get back to something workable. But sitting there on my sister's couch with a blanket over my legs and my own peace starting to feel like something fragile and real, All I could see was the center of the sentence. Not I hurt you. Not I was cruel. Not I understand why you left. Just everyone thinks I'm the bad guy, I replied. I didn't say you were. I just stopped accepting it. His answer came fast. My mom says relationships take compromise. You didn't even give me a chance to explain. There it was again. Always her voice beside his. Always her opinion translated into principle, as if borrowing her authority made him less responsible for what he believed. I typed, deleted, then finally sent the simplest thing I had. You explained yourself perfectly on the couch. No response. The next day, my sister told me Liam had gone back to the apartment with his mother. Not to pack, not to move on, to inspect. Apparently, she walked from room to room, asking questions in that cool, managerial tone she always used when she wanted to pretend she was only being practical. What exactly did Faye contribute? I laughed when my sister repeated that to me. Then I went very still. Because contribution is almost invisible when a woman does it consistently enough. Groceries, appointments, bills paid on time, birthdays remembered, emotional temperature managed before it becomes conflict. The invisible labor of making a life function smoothly enough that the other person starts thinking smoothness is automatic, until it stops. And then suddenly, absence has weight. That night, Liam called again. I let it ring twice, then answered. His voice was quieter this time. The defensive edge was gone, or maybe just exhausted. I didn't think you'd actually choose yourself over us, he said. Us? I asked. He hesitated. You know what I mean. I do, I said. That's why I left. Silence stretched between us, thick and strange. And in that silence, I could almost hear it clicking into place for him. I hadn't walked away from a relationship. I had walked away from a committee, from a life where my worth had to be reviewed, where my place had to be justified, where his mother's concern was treated like evidence and my pain was treated like a mood. He said my name then, softly, like he was trying it out in a new language. Faye. But I didn't rescue him from what came next. I just waited. The call after that came late. Too late to be casual. Too late to be anything but desperation. This time, Liam didn't sound angry. No sarcasm, no superiority, just raw panic leaking through the cracks. I don't know what I'm supposed to do now, he said quietly. Everything feels unstable. I leaned back against the couch and closed my eyes. For years, he continued, you were the constant. You handled things. You stayed calm. You never made me choose sides. There it was. I wasn't his partner. I was his buffer. His mother's expectations, his own doubt, his fear of making the wrong choice. I absorbed all of it so he never had to confront it directly. You weren't supposed to leave, he said. You were supposed to reassure me. I didn't raise my voice. I didn't interrupt. I'm getting questions now, he went on. From my mom, from friends. Everyone keeps asking why you left, and I don't know what to say. That's because, I said calmly, you outsourced your answer for too long. He let out a shaky breath. That's not fair. It's accurate, I said. His voice cracked then, not loudly, just enough that I could hear the humiliation finally brushing up against him. I didn't think one sentence would end everything. It didn't, I replied. It just revealed it. Silence stretched again. Then he asked the question I had known was coming. Is there any chance we could try again? Maybe with boundaries this time. My mom doesn't have to be involved so much. I almost felt bad for him. Almost. You're only offering that now because you lost me, I said gently. Not because you chose me. He broke apart then. Full sobs. No defenses left. No polished tone. Just a man finally hearing the sound of his own life without the person who used to steady it. I didn't mean to make you feel small, he said. I didn't know how to stand up to her. I exhaled slowly. And that's why I can't come back, I said. Because I can't spend my life proving myself to someone who won't stand next to me. He didn't argue. He couldn't. And in that moment, I knew something he was only just starting to understand. Losing me wasn't the deepest problem. Losing the structure that let him avoid himself was. And there was no fixing that from the outside. After that call, something finally shifted for both of us. Liam stopped reaching out directly. No late night, can we talk texts. No missed calls stacked in rows across my screen. No careful little messages designed to sound softer than the ones before. Instead, I started hearing about him the way he used to hear about me, secondhand, through friends, through mutuals, through those small, sideways updates people give when they are not sure whether they are helping or just carrying emotional debris from one person to another. He's not doing great. He keeps saying he didn't think it would actually end like this. His mom keeps asking what he did wrong. That last one stayed with me. Because for the first time, his mother did not have a clear villain to point at. I was not there anymore to absorb the blame, to be analyzed and critiqued like a flawed product she had never approved of in the first place. And without me, Liam had no buffer. No one standing between him and the life he had built by letting someone else narrate it for him. About a week later, I ran into him by accident. A coffee shop near our old neighborhood. The kind of place we used to stop at on lazy Sundays when everything still looked normal from the outside. I almost turned around when I saw him, but he had already seen me. He looked different. Not messy. Not broken in the dramatic way people imagine after a breakup. Just less certain. Like someone who had lost the script and was improvising badly. His shoulders looked tighter. His face looked older somehow. Not because time had passed, but because confusion had finally settled. Where certainty used to be. "Hey," he said, standing up too fast. "Can we talk? Just for a minute." I should have said no. Instead, I nodded and sat down across from him. He wrapped both hands around his coffee cup like he needed something physical to hold on to. For a second, neither of us spoke. The noise of the cafe moved around us, milk steaming, cups clinking, someone laughing too loudly near the door. Ordinary sounds. Strange backdrop for the ruins of a relationship. Finally, he said, "My mom keeps asking why I didn't fight harder. Why I let you leave." I raised an eyebrow. "And what do you tell her?" He swallowed. "I don't know." That honesty caught me off guard more than anything else he had said since I left. He looked down at the table. "I keep replaying that night on the couch," he admitted. "I didn't think you'd hear it as final." "I didn't hear it," I said. "I accepted it." He winced at that. "You always took things seriously," he said after a moment. "I guess I assumed you'd adapt, like you always did." There it was again. The assumption that I had been endlessly adjustable, that I would bend, reframe, accommodate, absorb. That love looked like endurance, and that my steadiness existed for his comfort more than my own dignity. "I adapted for years," I said. "This time I chose myself." He nodded slowly. Tears threatened, but never quite fell. He looked like a man who had only recently discovered that self-awareness hurts differently when it arrives after loss instead of before it. Then he said something that almost made me pity him. "I think my mom liked the version of you who stayed quiet." I stood up. "I didn't," I said. He looked up at me then, searching my face for something softer, maybe some sign that understanding had arrived soon enough to matter. "Do you ever miss me?" he asked. I paused because that deserved honesty, not cruelty. "I miss who I thought we were," I said, "not what we became." He didn't stop me when I walked away. That was how I knew this was really over. Not because he was done hurting, but because for the first time he had nothing left that could turn my leaving into a debate. The last real conversation didn't happen in person. It happened a few days later, after he went back to the apartment one final time to pack the rest of his things. I wasn't there. That was intentional. My sister told me later that he moved slowly, carefully, like every object in the place carried weight now. She said he stood in the doorway for a long time before leaving, holding the note I had left behind, the one he still hadn't thrown away. He called me that evening. I almost didn't answer. Almost. "I won't keep you long," he said quietly when I picked up. No attitude, no authority, no borrowed confidence from his mother's opinions, just fatigue. I stayed silent. He exhaled. "My mom asked me again why I'm single," he said, "and this time I didn't blame you. I didn't say anything. I wanted him to keep going without me helping." "I told her the truth," he continued, "that I let her voice become louder than my own, that I let her question you until I started questioning you too." That was the closest he had ever come to fully owning it. "I don't expect anything from you," he added quickly. "I know that door is closed. I just wanted you to know that I finally understand what you meant." I leaned back and stared at the ceiling. "I hope you do," I said, "because understanding it later doesn't make it hurt less, but it might stop it from happening again." He was quiet for a moment. Then he asked very softly, "You really meant it, didn't you, when you said you agreed with me?" "Yes," I said. "I agreed that you didn't have an answer, and I refused to keep being one." He inhaled shakily. "I lost you because I didn't protect us," he whispered. "You lost me because you didn't choose us," I corrected gently. The silence after that wasn't hostile, it wasn't bitter, it was something rarer than that. Final. We said goodbye without promises, without any dramatic claim that maybe someday things would be different. There was no maybe left. Just two people standing at the far edge of what they had been. One of them finally understanding too late, the other already gone. When the call ended, I sat there for a long time with my phone in my hand and realized I was feeling something I had not felt in years. Peace. Because when Liam said, "My mom keeps asking why I'm still with you," He had really been asking himself. He just used her voice because it was easier than hearing his own. And when I said, "You're right," I wasn't giving up. I was finally walking away from a relationship where I was never fully allowed to stand on my own. That is the part people miss when they talk about endings like this. They think the painful thing is being left, or leaving, or losing the future you thought you were building. But sometimes the deepest pain is realizing how long you kept trying to be enough for someone who only knew how to measure you through someone else's disappointment. I don't hate Liam. That surprises people. I don't wish him anything terrible. I don't need revenge. I don't need him to suffer the exact way I suffered just so the universe feels balanced. I hope he learns to separate love from approval. I hope one day he builds a life where he can hear his own voice before someone else hands him one. I hope he stops confusing indecision with innocence. But I also hope he never forgets what it cost him to learn that lesson. As for me, I stopped mistaking being needed for being chosen. And that changed everything.